We live in a world that often tells us to fight, to cling, and to endure no matter the cost. But the greatest power we have is not in holding on, it is in walking away. And the strength it takes to walk away when the heart screams to stay, when pride demands revenge, when fear whispers that we'll never find better, is the strength that defines us. In this act of departure, we discover our freedom. We shed the chains of our own making. These are the lessons Stoicism imparts, not through words alone, but through the way it teaches us to live with power, not over others, but over ourselves. Certainly, let's dive deeper into Lesson 1 and Lesson 2, exploring their significance in Stoicism and how walking away relates to self-control and personal freedom. Lesson 1: Walk away from the illusion of control. We often deceive ourselves into thinking that we can control external events, people's reactions, or even the outcomes of our efforts. This illusion of control is seductive. It gives us a false sense of power over our surroundings, but in reality, it leads to frustration and suffering. Epictetus, a former slave who became one of Stoicism's greatest teachers, knew better than most the limits of control. His teaching, "It is not events that disturb men, it is their judgment concerning them," highlights a profound truth: we do not control the world around us, only our interpretation of it. Walking away in this context means letting go of our need to manipulate circumstances to fit our desires. Imagine holding onto a rope that's burning your hands. The tighter your grip, the more pain you experience. By walking away from this illusion, we release ourselves from unnecessary suffering. We stop investing energy into outcomes we cannot dictate and focus instead on what we can control: our thoughts, our actions, our responses. In walking away, we also reclaim our mental peace. By accepting that we cannot change everything, we remove the burden of fighting against reality. We are no longer chained to the need to fix every situation, but instead we adapt. The Stoic way teaches us that control over others and external events is impossible, but control over ourselves is within our grasp. Walking away becomes a powerful statement: I no longer need to bend the world to my will. I have learned to bend my will to face the world. Lesson 2: Detach from what owns you. We all have attachments, whether to people, possessions, or even ideals that subtly begin to control us. The more we invest in these attachments, the more power they have over our thoughts and emotions. Marcus Aurelius' wisdom, "Receive without pride, let go without attachment," speaks directly to this. It is a call to loosen our grip on things that don't truly belong to us, and that we will eventually lose anyway. Walking away in this lesson is an act of detachment. It is about recognizing that we cannot possess what was never ours to begin with. People leave, situations change, material possessions decay, and the Stoic understands this inevitability. When we cling to what we think belongs to us, we set ourselves up for pain. We become slaves to our desires, to the fear of loss, and to the illusion that something outside of us can complete us. Detachment, however, is not about abandoning all care or becoming indifferent. On the contrary, it's about deepening our relationship with ourselves and the world by seeing things clearly for what they are: temporary, fleeting, and beyond our control. When we walk away from unhealthy attachments, we take back the power they once held over us. We free our minds to focus on what truly matters: our own growth, virtue, and inner peace. Seneca, another Stoic philosopher, teaches that our true wealth is not in what we have, but in what we can let go of. He warns us about becoming trapped by the very things we think we need. By walking away from these attachments, we shift from dependency to self-sufficiency. No longer bound by external forces, we find our strength in our ability to rise above desire and possession. In walking away, we affirm that our value does not come from what we own or who we are connected to. Our value lies in our capacity to stand alone, to remain grounded in ourselves, even when everything else falls apart. This detachment gives us the ultimate freedom, a freedom no one can take from us. Certainly. Let's expand on Lesson 3 and Lesson 4, highlighting how these Stoic principles offer deeper insight into walking away and mastering one's inner strength. Lesson 3: Strength lies in silence. In a world that constantly demands us to react, to justify, to speak, silence becomes an underrated form of power. Most people assume that silence is synonymous with weakness or cowardice, but true strength often comes from the ability to remain silent, especially in the face of provocation. Seneca, the Roman Stoic philosopher, once said, "It is the power of the mind to be unconquerable." Silence represents the mastery of this inner power. When we walk away from conflict without feeling the need to explain ourselves or defend our actions, we take control of the situation. Walking away in silence is a profound act of strength that shows we are not swayed by the noise around us or the need for validation from others. In many cases, the noise of arguments or toxic situations only feeds destructive emotions like anger, resentment, or pride. Speaking in such moments often adds fuel to the fire, escalating the conflict rather than resolving it. Walking away in silence sends a different message. We refuse to engage in futile battles. We recognize that words in certain situations are wasted energy, and silence becomes the ultimate response, a refusal to let others dictate our emotional state. This act of walking away without confrontation or explanation reflects the Stoic belief in self-control. We are not governed by the opinions or judgments of others. Instead, we are governed by our inner principles. By choosing silence, we demonstrate that we are unconquerable in mind. We do not need to win arguments or prove ourselves. Our strength lies in knowing when to step away and let silence speak for itself. Lesson 4: Overcome the ego's chains. The ego, fueled by pride and the need for recognition, often keeps us trapped in unhealthy situations. The ego demands attention, craves validation, and insists on being right. It whispers that walking away is an admission of defeat, that staying and fighting is the only way to prove our worth. But this is a false narrative, one that chains us to conflict and suffering. Epictetus reminds us man is disturbed not by things, but by the views he takes of them. The ego distorts our view of reality, convincing us that staying engaged in conflict, whether in relationships, jobs, or personal struggles, will somehow elevate us. But in truth, it often keeps us stuck in a cycle of self-destruction. Walking away from a situation that feeds the ego is not an act of weakness, it is the ultimate act of self-mastery. To walk away from a battle that the ego wants to win is to transcend the ego itself. It is recognizing that our self-worth is not tied to proving others wrong or achieving a hollow victory. The Stoic understands that the real battle is internal, the struggle to overcome the desires and fears that the ego fosters. Walking away means rejecting the need to be validated by others. It's the realization that we do not need to engage in every conflict to assert our value. By walking away, we dismantle the ego's control over us. We are no longer reactive to insults, slights, or provocations. We rise above them, choosing peace over pride. Epictetus's wisdom further underscores this idea when he said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." Walking away from the chains of the ego grants us this freedom. It liberates us from the constant need to prove something to others. It allows us to live according to our own values, rather than the expectations or judgments of others. In every situation where the ego demands engagement, walking away is a radical act of liberation. It's saying, "I am not defined by this battle. I am free from the need to win at the cost of my inner peace." In walking away, we take back control not over the external world, but over ourselves. This is the essence of Stoic strength, mastering the inner world, while letting go of the need to dominate the outer one. Certainly. Let's further delve into Lesson 5 and Lesson 6, expanding on the Stoic principles that govern self-mastery, emotional resilience, and the wisdom in choosing when to walk away. Lesson 5: Let go of destructive emotions. Destructive emotions, anger, jealousy, resentment, and fear, are like fires that rage within us. When left unchecked, they consume our thoughts, cloud our judgment, and lead us down paths that cause harm not only to others but to ourselves. The Stoics understood that these emotions are not the result of external events but are born from within, shaped by how we interpret the world around us. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." This powerful statement reminds us that when we allow destructive emotions to dictate our actions, we become enslaved to them. To walk away from a situation that provokes these emotions is not an act of surrender, but of profound strength. It's a recognition that we have the power to break the cycle of anger or resentment by removing ourselves from the situation entirely. Walking away from destructive emotions requires inner discipline. Imagine a situation where someone insults you or provokes you to anger. The natural instinct might be to retaliate, to defend your pride or ego. But the Stoic sees this reaction for what it truly is: a moment of weakness, a lapse in self-control. By choosing to walk away, you refuse to be manipulated by those emotions. You are no longer a slave to anger or jealousy. Instead, you rise above it. This lesson reflects a key Stoic teaching that we cannot control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond. Walking away gives us the space to let go of emotions that would otherwise lead us astray. As Epictetus wisely noted, it is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. The act of walking away opens the door to a deeper understanding of ourselves, allowing us to reflect on our emotional triggers and grow stronger in mastering them. Lesson 6: You choose your battles by choosing to leave. The Stoic perspective on conflict is not that one must engage in every battle that arises, but rather that wisdom lies in discerning which battles are worth fighting. This principle is encapsulated in the teaching of Seneca, who said, "A wise man is content with his lot, whatever it may be, without wishing for what he has not." In this context, walking away is a demonstration of wisdom, for not every battle serves our higher purpose. Choosing to leave does not signal weakness, it signals clarity of thought and the recognition of where your energy is best spent. We are constantly presented with conflicts, challenges, and provocations, but a Stoic understands that engaging in every one of them would be exhausting and counterproductive. The energy we waste on unnecessary battles is energy that could be used to pursue growth, virtue, and purpose. Imagine a situation where a minor dispute escalates. It could be an argument over something trivial at work or a disagreement with a friend. The ego may urge you to stay and fight, to prove your point, or to ensure that you are seen as right. But walking away from these petty battles is an act of choosing your peace over pride. It's a recognition that not every argument or challenge deserves your attention. By walking away, you conserve your emotional and mental resources for what truly matters. You recognize that life's greatest battles are not fought over small slights or temporary frustrations, but over the pursuit of inner excellence. As Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength in walking away from unnecessary battles. You take control of your mind and focus on what you can truly change yourself. Walking away also signals a profound understanding of self-worth. You are not defined by the conflicts you engage in, nor are you diminished by choosing not to fight. Instead, walking away shows that you are secure enough in yourself that you do not need to prove anything to others. The greatest battles are often the ones we do not fight, for they are battles against our own need for validation and recognition. In the end, choosing to walk away is choosing your battles with wisdom and foresight. It is a reminder that strength is not always found in confrontation, but in the ability to step back, conserve your energy, and focus on the challenges that truly shape your character and growth. These two lessons from Stoicism remind us that walking away is not a defeat, it is a triumph of self-mastery. Whether letting go of destructive emotions or wisely choosing which battles to fight, walking away grants us the clarity, strength, and resilience to pursue a path of peace and purpose. If this video resonated with you, if it stirred something deep within, a desire to strive for more, to embrace control over your own life, then I encourage you to take a moment and like this video. By doing so, you're not just supporting the message, you're strengthening your own commitment to walk the path of self-mastery, And if you're ready to dive deeper into Stoic wisdom, to learn more strategies to master your mind, emotions, and life, then join this community by subscribing to the channel. We're on a shared journey, one where we push each other toward growth, resilience, and freedom. Together, we can keep moving forward, one lesson at a time. Certainly. Let's explore Lesson 7 and Lesson 8, delving deeper into their Stoic foundations and how they emphasize the profound power of walking away. Lesson 7: Walk away from the need for approval. Human beings have an intrinsic desire to be liked, validated, and approved by others. We often measure our worth through the eyes of others, constantly seeking reassurance that we are enough. However, this need for external approval can become a prison, trapping us in the opinions and judgments of those around us. Marcus Aurelius in his Meditations reminds us, "It never ceases to amaze me we all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." The Stoic perspective teaches that our value is not determined by how others perceive us, but by how we live in accordance with our principles and virtues. To walk away from the need for approval is to reclaim your sense of self-worth, independent of external validation. Imagine constantly tailoring your actions and decisions to gain the approval of others. This is exhausting, and worse, it diverts you from your true path. The approval you seek becomes a form of control others hold over you, dictating your emotions and choices. When you walk away from this need, you free yourself from this invisible chain. You no longer chase after fleeting opinions or try to fit into societal molds that do not align with who you truly are. Walking away from the need for approval is an act of courage. It requires recognizing that the approval you seek must come from within, from knowing that you are living a life of integrity and self-discipline. The Stoics teach that virtue is the only true good. Approval, praise, or criticism from others is ultimately irrelevant to your internal growth and peace of mind. Epictetus wrote, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." The wisdom in this statement lies in its challenge to societal norms. True improvement comes when we stop caring what others think and focus on mastering our inner world. Walking away from the need for approval gives you the freedom to pursue your own path, guided by reason and virtue, rather than the shifting opinions of others. By doing so, you strengthen your inner resolve. You become less reactive to praise or criticism, because you no longer define yourself by external measures. Instead, you stand firm in your own values, walking your own path, no longer swayed by the currents of societal expectations. This is where true freedom and power lie, within the ability to approve of yourself, regardless of what others think. Lesson 8: Leave behind the fear of failure. The fear of failure often paralyzes us. It prevents us from taking risks, trying new things, or stepping into unknown territory. We fear failure because we equate it with personal inadequacy. However, the Stoics believe that failure is not something to fear, it is something to embrace. For the Stoic, failure is not the opposite of success, it is part of the path toward growth and excellence. Seneca teaches, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. To fear failure is to fear the very experiences that will make you stronger." Walking away from the fear of failure is not about disregarding the possibility of mistakes, it is about rejecting the idea that failure defines who you are. Instead, failure becomes an essential tool for self-improvement. When we walk away from the fear of failure, we gain the courage to act decisively and boldly. Imagine standing on the edge of a new opportunity, hesitating because of the risks involved. The fear of failure whispers that you might fall, that you might not be good enough. But the Stoic realizes that whether you succeed or fail in external terms, the true measure of success is in your effort, in your resilience, and in your capacity to endure. Walking away from this fear allows you to engage with life fully. It frees you from the paralysis of indecision and the anxiety of potential outcomes. The Stoic focuses not on the result but on the process, on doing what is within your power and accepting the outcome with equanimity. As Epictetus famously said, "Do your best, and leave the rest to the gods. By abandoning the fear of failure, you also embrace humility. You recognize that perfection is unattainable and that mistakes are part of being human. Failure becomes a lesson, not a final judgment. Each failure brings you closer to wisdom and self-mastery, as long as you are willing to reflect and learn from it. Walking away from the fear of failure ultimately grants you the power to live without hesitation. You no longer hold back due to fear of judgment, criticism, or mistakes. You act with courage, knowing that whatever the outcome, your worth is not diminished. The Stoic does not seek perfection but strives for improvement, understanding that failure is not something to be feared, but something to be used as a stepping stone toward greater strength and wisdom. In both of these lessons, walking away signifies a profound shift in mindset from dependence on external validation and fear of failure to a life rooted in self-reliance and inner resilience. By letting go of the need for approval and the fear of failure, you reclaim control over your life, directing your efforts towards internal growth and unshakable peace, instead of external success. Absolutely. Let's expand on Lesson 9 and Lesson 10, further emphasizing their Stoic underpinnings and how they highlight the power and wisdom of walking away. Lesson 9: Distance yourself from toxic relationships. Toxic relationships are one of the most challenging areas of life to confront. Whether it's a romantic relationship, friendship, or even a family connection, toxic relationships can drain your energy, cloud your judgment, and stir destructive emotions. The Stoics understood that our environment, including the people we surround ourselves with, plays a crucial role in shaping our inner state. To walk away from a toxic relationship is not an act of abandoning others, it's an act of protecting yourself, your peace, and your virtue. Seneca wisely observed, "Associate with those who will make a better man of you. Welcome those whom you yourself can improve." The process is a mutual one. Men learn as they teach. This principle guides us in choosing relationships that nurture our growth rather than hinder it. Toxic relationships often pull us into cycles of negativity, conflict, or emotional manipulation. By walking away from such relationships, you take a stand for your well-being and refuse to be pulled into these destructive cycles. Walking away from a toxic relationship is not easy. It often involves confronting feelings of guilt, fear of loneliness, or a sense of duty. However, the Stoics remind us that we cannot control others' behavior, only our response to it. If a relationship consistently brings out anger, frustration, or sadness, it is a sign that walking away may be the healthiest option. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Toxic relationships poison your thoughts, leading you away from peace and virtue. By choosing to walk away, you reclaim your mental clarity and emotional stability. You create space for healthier, more enriching relationships that align with your values and help you grow." Walking away from toxicity is also an act of self-respect. You acknowledge that your time and emotional energy are precious, and you refuse to waste them on people who do not contribute to your well-being. This decision may feel painful at first, but it is a crucial step toward achieving the inner tranquility that Stoicism teaches. You are not responsible for saving others or fixing every situation. Sometimes the wisest choice is to step back and let go. In the end, distancing yourself from toxic relationships is about aligning with the Stoic belief in living according to virtue. It's about choosing relationships that build you up rather than tear you down. Walking away allows you to preserve your peace, pursue your personal growth, and live in harmony with those who truly add value to your life. Lesson 10: Walk away from what you cannot control. One of the central tenets of Stoicism is the distinction between what we can control and what we cannot. The Stoics believe that much of our suffering arises from trying to control things outside of our influence, whether that be the actions of others, the outcome of events, or even the inevitable passage of time. Walking away from what you cannot control is a profound act of wisdom and strength. as it shifts your focus from external forces to the mastery of your own mind and actions. Epictetus famously said, "Some things are in our control and others not." We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them. To walk away from what is beyond your control is to accept this truth fully. It is not about giving up, rather, it's about redirecting your energy toward what truly matters: your own thoughts, choices, and attitudes. Imagine a situation where you are constantly trying to change someone else's behavior or fix a situation that remains resistant to your efforts. The frustration, stress, and anxiety that arise from these attempts stem from a false belief that you have the power to control external events. Walking away from these struggles doesn't mean abandoning responsibility, it means accepting reality as it is. By doing so, you free yourself from the torment of trying to force outcomes that are out of your hands. When you walk away from what you cannot control, you reclaim your peace. You stop fighting battles that cannot be won, and instead, focus on improving yourself, your reactions, your resilience, and your perspective. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. This realization is key to achieving the tranquility that the Stoics valued so highly. This lesson is particularly important in today's fast-paced, unpredictable world, where so many things feel out of our control, whether it's global events, societal pressures, or personal relationships. The Stoic response is to walk away from trying to control these forces and instead focus on controlling what you can: your inner state. This doesn't mean becoming indifferent or apathetic, but rather learning to respond to the world with calm, reason, and acceptance. Walking away from what you cannot control also frees you from unnecessary emotional turmoil. By letting go of the need to dictate outcomes, you stop being a victim of circumstances. You become proactive rather than reactive, choosing how to navigate life's challenges with grace and wisdom. It's a shift from trying to control the uncontrollable to controlling the one thing that truly matters: your own response to life's inevitable ups and downs. In walking away from what you cannot control, you embody one of the core principles of Stoicism: living in harmony with nature. You accept the flow of events without resistance, knowing that peace comes not from manipulating the world, but from mastering your own mind. This, the Stoics believed, is the key to true freedom and power. These two lessons emphasize that walking away, whether from toxic relationships or the futile attempt to control external circumstances, is a powerful act of self-preservation and wisdom. By embracing these Stoic principles, you learn to focus on what truly matters: your own inner state, your growth, and your ability to live a life of peace and virtue, free from unnecessary suffering. Certainly. Let's dive deeper into Lesson 11 and Lesson 12, highlighting the Stoic wisdom behind walking away and how these lessons strengthen inner fortitude and self-control. Lesson 11: Walk away from resentment and grudges. Resentment and grudges can be corrosive forces in our lives. They linger like shadows, subtly influencing our thoughts, emotions, and actions. When we hold on to resentment, we are, in essence, shackling ourselves to past hurts, unable to move forward freely. The Stoics understood that holding on to these negative emotions is self-destructive and counterproductive to living a life of virtue. Imagine carrying the weight of every slight, every betrayal, or every insult with you throughout life. That weight grows heavier over time, poisoning your thoughts and actions. By holding grudges, you allow past wrongs to shape your present and future. Walking away from resentment doesn't mean condoning the behavior that hurt you, but it does mean refusing to let it control you. Epictetus teaches, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. In other words, no one can make you feel resentment or anger unless you allow it. Walking away from these feelings means reclaiming control over your emotional responses. You decide what occupies your mind, and by letting go of grudges, you free yourself from the emotional baggage that weighs you down. Furthermore, holding on to grudges often stems from the false belief that we are exacting some form of justice. In reality, the person who wronged you may be completely unaware of your resentment, while you are left burdened by the negativity. Walking away from grudges is an act of liberating yourself from this false sense of justice, acknowledging that the only justice you can control is your own virtue and peace of mind. Ultimately, walking away from resentment is about choosing to focus on what you can control: your own thoughts, emotions, and reactions. It's about refusing to let past wrongs define your present state of mind. By doing so, you cultivate a sense of inner freedom, allowing you to live more fully, unburdened by the negative emotions that once held you back. Lesson 12: Walk away from the pursuit of perfection. The pursuit of perfection is often glorified in modern society. We are constantly told to strive for perfection in our careers, relationships, and personal achievements. However, the Stoics recognize that the relentless pursuit of perfection is not only futile but also harmful. Perfection is an illusion, and the constant chase after it can lead to feelings of inadequacy, frustration, and burnout. Seneca warned against this trap when he said, "The mind that is anxious about the future is miserable." The Stoic approach to life emphasizes progress over perfection. Instead of obsessing over flawless execution, the Stoics focus on continuous improvement and the cultivation of virtue. Walking away from the pursuit of perfection is not about abandoning ambition, it's about embracing the imperfection inherent in life and in ourselves. Perfectionism can be paralyzing. When we set unattainably high standards for ourselves, we often become afraid to act at all, fearing that anything less than perfect will be a failure. This fear of imperfection prevents us from taking risks, learning from mistakes, and growing. Walking away from the pursuit of perfection allows us to embrace our human limitations and focus on doing our best with what is within our control. Epictetus reminds us progress is not achieved by luck or accident, but by working on yourself daily. This concept is key to Stoic philosophy. Life is a constant process of refinement. We are always learning, growing, and improving, but we will never reach a state of perfection. By walking away from the obsession with being perfect, we can redirect our energy toward meaningful progress and personal development. Walking away from perfectionism also cultivates self-compassion. The Stoics recognize that failure and mistakes are inevitable parts of life. Instead of harshly judging ourselves for our imperfections, we should view them as opportunities to grow stronger and wiser. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." This quote highlights the importance of action over theoretical ideals. Instead of fixating on an unattainable standard of perfection, focus on living virtuously in the present moment. By letting go of perfectionism, we also gain the freedom to pursue our goals without the constant pressure of unrealistic expectations. The fear of falling short can hold us back from taking risks, but when we walk away from the need to be perfect, we allow ourselves to embrace challenges with a mindset of growth rather than fear. This shift in perspective fosters resilience and a greater capacity for enduring difficulties. The Stoic acceptance of imperfection is rooted in the understanding that we are all human, subject to error and limitation. Walking away from the pursuit of perfection is an acknowledgement of this reality and a commitment to focusing on what truly matters: progress, self-improvement, and living according to our values. When we let go of perfection, we open ourselves to the possibility of real growth and meaningful change, free from the unrealistic demands we place on ourselves. In these lessons, walking away is an act of liberation. Whether it's releasing the burden of resentment or stepping away from the unrealistic pursuit of perfection, the act of walking away allows you to reclaim your inner peace, focus on what truly matters, and live a life aligned with Stoic principles. Through these lessons, you gain the strength to overcome destructive emotions, the wisdom to accept your limitations, and the freedom to pursue a path of continuous growth. Lesson 13: Walk away from the fear of failure. Fear of failure is a universal experience, one that often holds us back from pursuing our true potential. It's a fear rooted in anxiety about the unknown, about the loss of control, or about the judgment of others. Yet, in Stoicism, fear of failure is seen as a barrier to living a virtuous life, where one embraces challenges, makes bold decisions, and walks the path of self-improvement without hesitation. Epictetus emphasized, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows in this context." The Stoics viewed failure not as a sign of weakness or defeat, but as a necessary part of the learning process. Walking away from the fear of failure means understanding that setbacks, mistakes, and challenges are essential to growth. Without failure, there is no progress. Without mistakes, there is no learning. By walking away from fear, you free yourself to take risks, knowing that failure is simply a step toward wisdom and mastery. The Stoic approach to fear is rooted in their concept of amor fati, or love of fate. Marcus Aurelius encouraged us to accept the outcome of events, whether good or bad, with open arms. Love only that which happens to you and is spun with the thread of your destiny. For what is more suitable? This acceptance of fate means relinquishing the anxiety of outcomes that are beyond our control, including failure. To walk away from the fear of failure is to embrace fate and trust that, no matter the outcome, you will have the strength and wisdom to navigate it. When we are afraid of failing, we often hold ourselves back from pursuing our goals. This fear paralyzes us, leading to inaction or half-hearted efforts. The Stoics believed that courage, one of the four cardinal virtues, lies in facing challenges head-on without being deterred by the possibility of failure. Walking away from the fear of failure means recognizing that fear itself is the true enemy, not the failure we dread. It's about taking bold action despite uncertainty. Seneca famously wrote, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that things are difficult." Walking away from the fear of failure requires daring to step outside your comfort zone, to take risks, and to embrace the possibility of mistakes. In doing so, you cultivate resilience, fortitude, and an unshakable belief in your ability to adapt and grow, no matter what challenges arise. This lesson also reflects the Stoic principle of detachment from outcomes. The Stoics believed that we should focus on the effort and the process rather than obsessing over results. Epictetus taught, "Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens." Walking away from the fear of failure is about shifting your focus from external validation and success to the internal process of living virtuously. It's about doing your best in every endeavor, knowing that the outcome is ultimately beyond your control. By walking away from the fear of failure, you also free yourself from the judgment of others. One of the main reasons people fear failure is because they are concerned about how others will perceive them. The Stoics, however, urged us to be indifferent to the opinions of others, focusing instead on what is within our control, our own actions and character. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." Walking away from the fear of failure means breaking free from the need for external validation and embracing the freedom to live according to your own values. In the end, walking away from the fear of failure is about reclaiming your power. It's about understanding that failure is not something to be avoided at all costs, but rather something to be embraced as part of the journey toward excellence. The Stoics believed that failure is a natural part of life, and by accepting it, we can live more courageously, more authentically, and with greater inner peace. When you walk away from fear, you walk toward freedom, the freedom to try, to fail, and to ultimately succeed in ways that matter most to you. Walking away from fear of failure, as this final lesson shows, is the ultimate expression of Stoic courage. It is a declaration that you will not be ruled by fear, nor will you allow external forces to dictate your worth or potential. Walking away means trusting in your own ability to persevere, to learn, and to grow through every challenge you face. It's a commitment to embracing life in its fullness, with all its risks, mistakes, and victories. By mastering the art of walking away from fear, from perfectionism, from toxic relationships, From things you cannot control, you step into a life of true freedom and power. You reclaim your peace, fortitude, and resilience, aligning yourself with the Stoic ideal of living in harmony with nature and with virtue as your guide. This is the Stoic's greatest power, the strength to walk away, not in retreat, but toward a higher, wiser, and more peaceful way of being. If this video resonated with you, if it stirred something deep within, a desire to strive for more, to embrace control over your own life, then I encourage you to take a moment and like this video. By doing so, you're not just supporting the message, you're strengthening your own commitment to walk the path of self-mastery. And if you're ready to dive deeper into Stoic wisdom, to learn more strategies to master your mind, emotions, and life, then join this community by subscribing to the channel. We're on a shared journey, one where we push each other toward growth, resilience, and freedom. Together, we can keep moving forward, one lesson at a time,